currency would be a much higher valued currency. And therefore, the exports from Germany to the Eurozone would not be competitive. The opposite is also true. Italian, Spanish, Greek exports, tourists for instance, would be much more competitive. So the country that really needs the euro is not Greece, it's Germany. France thought the same. The Mercosur was an attempt to bring together the interests of the two countries, but suddenly Cossy decided that Merck was taking advantage of him because ultimately the financial markets continue to work. So now the German, the French debt, French public debt is undervalued now vis-a-vis the German debt. So ultimately, all these differences between euros and different countries, no, it's one country with a so-called real euro, and all the other euros are false euros. Come on. So, as you know, it's being openly debated these days in all the countries, including France, to create what they call a two-speed eurozone and a three-speed euro. Well, first of all, the euro doesn't mean the end of the beginning or the end of the European Union. After all, 10 of the 27 are not in the euro. It doesn't mean that there are no problems. Look at Britain. But it means that, for instance, Poland, which is the best performing economy now in Europe, is not in the euro. They want to go into the euro. And that's why? Because of the Polish elite wants to be part of that club. But fundamentally, the conditions, both structural and in policy terms, of the unity of the Eurozone do not exist anymore. And therefore, you have euros, try to put it in some other currency, yuan, for instance. It is really coming now. We are moving fast toward the disintegration of the Eurozone. Because as Europe, a Eurozone at 2 or 3 levels is not the Eurozone by definition. Let's not play with words. And this is unsustainable because, among other things, even if Merkel wants to save the German bank, even if Merkel wants to keep the economic supremacy of Germany over Europe, the German voters, because they have been told that these Greeks and these Spaniards, all these pigs, are prolific, desirable people, why we have to save them? And since no one has told them the truth, Germans are now blocking any solution. Remember, in one of the most democratic and interesting countries in Europe, Finland, at the last election this year, an unknown party that was unknown before, the True Finns, got 21% of the vote with only one point in their program, not to help Portugal. Why Portugal? Well, probably they hated Portugal, not to help Portugal. That was the only point in the program, 21% of the vote. In other words, this famous European citizenry, European solidarity, everybody loving each other, come on. Everybody is at this point trying, in the formal terms, trying to save himself or herself. Unless there is something different. Unless these are the kind of people like those who are here. Unless there is another Europe that is being formed. Not the Europe of an unsustainable Europe. Not the Europe of these elites that dance with each other, always trying to remove themselves from the control of their citizens. Referendum for the Greeks to decide? Come on, impossible. It's crazy. Referendum politics these days. Asking the people what to do? Are you irresponsible? People know nothing. We know. What they know is how to preserve their interests. This triangle of power. This is not an economic crisis. This is a political crisis. And the political crisis is both in terms of the institutions that cannot manage the system anymore, and is in terms of the public opinion and the support that is being generated by occupied movements around Europe and around the world. 73% of the people in Spain support what the movement is saying. And then, yes, they vote for the Conservative Party. Well, That's schizophrenia, politically speaking. But in terms of the content, of the substance, they support what the movement says. But they would not support a movement party, because that would be against the same game. So what? So what for the future? Well, we don't know. We know one thing. What we have doesn't work. It's dysfunctional. What we have goes directly to a second catastrophe, because the crisis brings twice. But the third time is not a crisis, it's death. Remember the little book. And in that sense, what you are trying to do is simply start at least raising the questions, opening up the public debate, and we'll see what happens. We know we don't want and we cannot go from where we come. As for the future, we have to make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have some time for questions. If you want to ask a question, please line up here and ask a question on the mic. I want to ask you to keep your question brief. We don't